Hello students, in this video I am going to discuss regarding the theory part of the chapter 3, that is income from other sources. So section 56 to 59 of the Income Tax Act of 1961, which deals with the concept called as income from other sources. So let's see first, that is basis of charge. Means as per the section 56 of 1, there are some conditions which has to be satisfied by the income to be called as income from other sources. So the condition number 1 says that there must be an income. Means there should not be a loss, there should be income, then only it will be called as, or it will be taken under the head called as income from other sources. Second important one, it should not be an exempted income. So we already know that as per the section 10, there are certain incomes which are exempted from the taxes. Such exempted income cannot be taken under the head called as income from other sources. Other than the exempted incomes will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. And the third important condition is that whatever the income which has been left out or which has not been charged to tax under the first four heads of income called as income from salary, income from house property, profit and gains from the business or profession, and last one, income from capital gain. Means whatever the income which has not been charged to tax in the first four heads, and that income will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. So this is the basis of charge or the conditions where the income will be chargeable under the head called as income from other sources. Next, this is the format for calculating the taxable income from other sources. So there are different heads or different types of income called as dividend, interest on securities, bank interest on fixed deposit, casual income, income from family pension, composite rent, income from subletting, rental income from machinery, plant or furniture, gifts, insurance commission, deemed incomes, mining rent or royalties or ground rent, withdrawal from national savings scheme, agriculture income from a place outside India, director fees or commission, salary received by a member of a parliament or MLA or MLC, rent from land, examination fees received by a teacher, not from the employer, interest on employees' contribution to unrecognized provident fund, remuneration received for writing articles in journals or magazines. These are the incomes which are chargeable under the income from other sources. If you observe, all the incomes has not been taken in the first four heads of income. So whatever the income which has been left out from the first four heads of income, that income or left out income will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. So after calculating or after taking all the incomes, from that we need to minus the exemption under section 57 of the Income Tax Act of 1961. Means after calculating or after totaling all the incomes under the head called as income from other sources, we need to claim the exemption under section 57. So what may be the exemption? That is, whatever the expenditure which has been incurred by the assessee, which is purely related to earn the income. Means any expenditure which are incurred by the assessee for recurring or for earning the income which has been mentioned in the above list, such expenditure will be claimed as exemption under section 57, except the capital in nature, and if any expenditure which has been incurred by the assessee for his personal purpose, such expenditure cannot be claimed as an exemption under section 57. It is purely related to earn the income, and such expenditure should not be in a capital nature, and such expenditure should not be incurred by the assessee for his personal purpose. Then after that we'll get the taxable income from other sources. This is the format for calculating the taxable income from other sources. Next, we have some incomes which may be taxable or which are taxable to the head called as income from other sources. Means some incomes which have been not taken in the first 4 heads of income, that left out income will be taken to the head called as income from other sources. Means the income which has not been taken in the first 4 heads, and that income can be taken to the head called as income from other sources. That's why they given the heading called as income generally taxable under section 56 of 1 may be taxable to the head called as income from other sources, like income from subletting, interest on bank deposit, interest on loans, rent from vacant piece of plot of land, agriculture income from land situated outside India, insurance commission, income from undisclosed sources, interest received on delayed refund of income tax, remuneration received by a person from a person other than his employer, income from royalty, if not PGBP, that is profit and gains from business or profession, director sitting fee for attending board meeting. If you observe, this income cannot be taken to the first 4 heads of income. That's why they have taken the income under the head called as income from other sources. But as per the section 56 of 2, there are some incomes which are always chargeable under the head called as income from other sources. That is, there are specified income which are chargeable under the income from other sources. So as per the section 56 of 2, the following incomes are always chargeable under the head income from other sources. So first one, they given the word called as dividend. So dividend is nothing but it's a part of profit which has been distributed by the company to its shareholders. So any dividend which has been received by the assessee, if it is from the domestic company, then it is fully exempted from the taxes. Not only from domestic company, either it may be from unit trust of India, units of unit trust of India or mutual funds. So any dividend which has been received by the assessee from domestic company and units of unit trust of India or mutual funds, it is fully exempted from the taxes. And if we earn the income from the foreign company or cooperative society, it is chargeable under the head called as income from other sources. So detailed explanation will be given in the next slides. Second one, we call them as in casual incomes, that is winning from lottery, crossword puzzles, horse race and card games. Third one, interest on securities if it is not taken to the head or if it is not charged under the head called as profit and gains from business or profession. Next, income from machinery, plant or furniture let on hire, income from composite land, letting of building, machinery, plant or furniture, any sum received without consideration, without paying the amount, either it may be gifts. Seventh, interest received on compensation or enhanced compensation. So these are the incomes which are compulsorily chargeable under the head called as income from other sources as per section 56 of 2. Next, we have the methods of accounting for income from other sources. So as per the section 145, the assessee can adopt 2 methods for recording or for calculating the income from other sources. So first method they call them as an mercantile system. So mercantile system is nothing but it's a credit system where the assessee is going to render the services now and is going to earn the income or receive the income in a future date. That is called as mercantile system or credit system. So if the assessee is adopting the mercantile system, then you need to record the income on the basis called as accrual basis, that is on the expectation basis. Second one, if the assessee is following the cash system, then you need to record all the transaction on the receipt basis. Right? If he is following the mercantile system, you need to record the transaction on accrual basis. If he is following the cash system, then you need to record the transaction on the receipt basis. And if the assessing officer, that is the person who is going to verify all the documents of the assessees, if he not satisfied with the method or the information which has been given by the assessee, he has the right to verify the document or do the assessment called as best judgment assessment. Means as per his knowledge, he can do the verification or he can do the calculation and he can get the proper information. So this is the method for accounting for information from other sources. Next, before going to the individual concept wise, first we need to understand the word called as TDS, that is nothing but tax deducted at source, because some of the incomes which exceeds the standard limit, then the company will deduct the tax amount from the income, and after deducting the tax amount, they are paying the amount or they are paying the income to the assessee. So that deduction will be called as tax deducted at sources. So there is a chance of asking for 2 marks question, what is the meaning of TDS or expand TDS. So TDS is nothing but it's a tax deducted at source, means before paying the amount to the assessee or before paying the income to the assessee, the company has to check whether that income exceeds the standard limit or not. If the income exceeds the standard limit, they need to deduct the tax from the income and the remaining amount has to be paid to the assessee. So that's what they given the meaning called as TDS stands for tax deducted at source. As per the Income Tax Act, any company or person making a payment is required to deduct tax at source if the payment exceeds the threshold limit, that is standard limit. TDS has to be deducted at rates prescribed by the tax department. So this rate has been given in the next following slides. So first, tax treatment. So we have taken the dividend. So dividend is nothing but it's a part of profit which has been distributed by the company to its shareholders. Now, how to treat the dividend if it is given in the problem? So I already told that any dividend which has been received from the Indian company or units of Unit Trust of India or mutual funds, it is not taxable. It is free from the tax. But the condition, if any dividend from the Indian company is exceeds rupees 10 lakhs, means if you are receiving or if you are earning any income called as dividend from an Indian company, and such dividend if it is exceed rupees 10 lakh rupees, then the balance amount or the difference amount will be taken as a chargeable to tax. Means if you are receiving the dividend of rupees 12 lakh from the Indian company, so the exceed limit is 10 lakh rupees, so difference balance is 2 lakh rupees, that 2 lakh rupees will be taken as an income under the head called as income from other sources. So up to 10 lakh rupees you can claim the exemption. About 10 lakh rupees, the difference amount will be taken as a income under the head called as income from other sources only for domestic companies or Indian company. But if you are receiving any dividend from foreign company or if you are receiving any dividend from cooperative society, it is fully taxable. And after calculating the dividend, if they are incurred any expenses called as collection charges or interest on loan, they can claim the exemption or deductions under section 57 of 1 and under section 57 of 2. So your collection charges is nothing but if any assessee has paid any amount in the form of commission or in the form of brokerage for the collection of the dividend from the company, then that will be called as collection charges and that amount has to be deducted from the income. Second one, interest on loan. If any assessee has taken the loan amount for the purchase of shares and if he is paying any interest on such loan, he can claim the deduction under section 57 of 2. This is the tax treatment for dividend. So if any dividend from the Indian company, if it is exceeding the rupees 10 lakh rupees, then the difference amount will be taken as an income under the head called as income from other sources. Dividend from foreign company and cooperative society is fully taxable, and we need to claim the deductions under section 57. That is, one is collection charges, either it may be brokerage or commission paid by the assessee for collecting the dividend. Second one, interest on loan. If any loan amount has been taken by the assessee for purchasing the shares, on that you need to pay the interest amount, and that interest amount can be claimed as deduction. Second important one, that is interest on securities. So any interest on securities which has not been chargeable under the head called as profit and gains from the business or profession has to be taken under the head income from other sources. So here the types of securities or the securities has been classified into two parts. One, it is called as less tax securities, and second one, it is tax-free securities. So less tax securities is nothing but are the securities or those securities where the interest paid to the assessee after deducting the tax from the income. Means less tax securities refers to on those securities the tax will be deducted from the company, and after deducting the amount, the remaining amount or the balance amount will be payable to the assessee. But in the tax-free securities, they are not going to deduct any amount called as tax amount from the sources. The gross amount will be payable to the assessee. So here we need to understand the difference between the gross amount as well as the net amount. So gross amount is nothing but before deducting any tax amount from the income or source, that amount will be called as gross amount or gross income. And if you are deducting any tax from the income or sources, and after deducting the tax, if you get the balance, such balance will be called as net income. And in the case of net income given in the problem, we need to gross up because we are supposed to calculate the tax on such income. So already the tax has been deducted. We need to add back the tax and we need to do the grossing up. And how to do the grossing up will be explained in the next slide. So less tax securities and tax-free securities. And less tax securities has been classified into two parts. One, it is called as government securities and commercial securities. So government securities are nothing but the securities which has been issued by the government institutions or government sectors. So if any less tax securities issued by the government company, then no TDS will be done. So directly the gross up amount or the amount which has been given will be taken as an interest on securities, and it will be chargeable under the income from other sources. And if it is a commercial securities or any private institutions has been issued, and if it is listed or unlisted. So listed is nothing but any shares which has been listed in the recognized stock exchange, then that securities or shares will be called as listed securities or listed transactions. And if any shares which has not been listed in this recognized stock exchange, then that will be called as unlisted securities or shares. So if it is issued by the commercial company or private company, and if it is listed or unlisted, we need to do the TD. Yes, that is tax has to be deducted from the sources. Second one we have, that is tax-free securities. Any tax-free securities which has been issued by the government, then that income will be claimed as exempted. So any income from the tax-free government securities is fully exempted from the taxes and no need of consideration. But if any tax-free securities which has been issued by the commercial companies or commercial sectors, even if it is listed or unlisted, we need to minus the TD. Yes. And the confusion is that how to identify the less tax securities and tax-free securities. So in the problem, they will clearly mention the word called as tax-free securities, that is tax-free government securities or tax-free securities. If they not mentioned any word called as tax-free, then it is ultimately treated as less tax securities. So these are the different types of securities. Next, there are some rules for grossing up of interest. So already told that if they given the net amount, we need to do the gross up. So how to do the gross up? There are certain rules. First one, if it is less tax securities and if it is issued by the government companies, no need to gross up. Means directly whatever the amount they have given or whatever the amount we have calculated, that will be taken as an gross up amount and it will be chargeable under the head called as income from other sources. Means they have given the investment amount of rupees 10,000 and the rate of interest is 10%. Then 10,000 into 10% will get 1,000. That 1,000 will be taken to the income from other sources. Second, if any commercial sectors or the private companies issued less tax securities, then we need to calculate two ways. One, if they have given the percentage of interest in the problem, means if they given the investment amount and if they given the percentage of the interest, then no need to gross up. So directly by using the investment and by using the interest percentage, we can calculate directly the interest amount can be calculated and that can be taken to the income from other sources. But in case if they given the interest amount directly, they're not given any percentage, but if they given the interest amount directly, then either it may be listed or unlisted shares, we need to gross up. So interest amount, it is nothing but net amount, so we need to do the gross up only for less tax securities. But in case of tax-free securities, if it is issued by the government, then it is fully exempted from the taxes. So there are some securities which has been given in the next slide as a list. That securities will be called as tax-free securities. And if any company or if any assessee has received such securities, then such income is fully exempted from the taxes. Second category, that is commercial securities, commercial tax free security. And in this, whether they have given any percentage or investment amount or the interest amount directly, even if it is a listed or unlisted shares, we need to do the gross up. Repeating, if it is a commercial tax-free security, whether they have given the percentage and investment, whether they have given the interest amount directly, we need to do the gross up. Means that is both or net amount, and we need to do the gross up. Okay, now how to do the gross up is the question. So for that, we need to apply the formula called as net interest into 100 divided by 100 minus tax rate. So this tax rate will be given in the next slide. Okay, so the crossing up formula will be net interest into 100 divided by 100 into 100 minus tax rate. For an example, the interest rate is 10%, so net interest into 100 divided by 100 minus 10, so we'll get 90. So this is the formula for calculating the grossing up of interest. And I have given the certain rules which has been already explained in the previous slides. So these are the following securities which are exempted from the taxes. So be careful. These are the securities which has been issued by the government or any statutory bodies, and that amount or the interest amount is fully exempted from the taxes. In this, the important one is post office saving bank account. That is 9th point. If you observe, they given the exemption amount, that is if any assessee is earning interest on post office saving bank account up to rupees 3,500, in the case of individual account is exempted. Means if you are receiving rupees 5,000 rupees as an interest on post office saving bank account up to 3,500. So 5,000 minus 3,500, the balance amount 1,500 will be taxable. And in the case of joint account up to 7,000, he can claim the exemption. So be careful and remember, if any interest on post office saving bank account up to rupees 3,500 for an individual is exempted, and for joint stock or for joint account up to rupees 7,000 is exempted. And post office cumulative time deposit account, NRI bonds issued by RBI, dividend on equity shares, all such securities which has been issued by the government are fully exempted from the taxes. Next, sometimes the assessee may feel or they may follow certain find the loopholes to exempt or to find the loopholes to exempt from the taxes. That is, they're going to follow certain rules or they're going to follow certain procedures where they can escape from the taxes. That is called as avoidance of taxes anta kariತೀವಿ. Means they're following certain rules or they're following certain procedures and they're finding certain loopholes where they can escape from the paying the taxes. That is the meaning called as avoidance of tax as per the section 94. And under that, to avoid the taxes, they're following the certain transactions or they're following the certain process as per the section 94 of 1 called as bond washing transaction. There is a chance of asking for 2 mark question. What is the meaning of bond washing transaction? Now check what is the bond washing transaction. Bond washing transaction, which consists of setting securities by high income class assessees to the low income classes assessee before the due date and acquiring back the same securities after the due date of interest. Means the high class securities, that is the person who have already purchased the securities before earning the interest, means before earning the interest, he is going to sell the securities to the person who is having the lesser income because he can claim the exemption. The high class or high level of income assessee who are having the securities, he is going to sell the same securities to the other person who is having the lesser income or less income, and that securities will be purchased or repurchased by the same assessee after the due date of interest. So that transaction or that securities will be called as bond washing transactions or bond washing securities. Means the high level income assessee is selling the securities to the low level income person or the assessee because to escape from the income. Okay, that is the meaning of bond washing securities. Third one, important one, that is bank interest on fixed deposits. This interest is fully taxable under the head income from other sources, and the bank have the right to deduct the tax from the sources if the conditions has been satisfied. That is, first condition, there should be a fixed deposit. Second one, the interest should be credited annually. And third important one, if the interest amount exceed rupees 10,000 and the bank or the cooperative societies or the post office, they can deduct the tax from the sources and the remaining amount can be payable to the assessee. And if in the problem they have given the net interest, then we need to do the gross up. That is by using the formula called as net interest into 100 divided by 100 minus tax rate. So if any income, that is interest on fixed deposit, exceed rupees 10,000 rupees, then the bank or the cooperative society have the right can deduct the TDS or the tax from the sources. And if in the problem they have given the net interest, means they have mentioned the word called as net, then we need to do the gross up by using the formula called as net interest into 100 divided by 100 minus tax rate. Fourth one, that is casual income. So casual income is nothing but any income which has been received by the assessee, which is unanticipated, which is not regularly recurring in the nature. Example, betting, lottery winnings, card games, horse races, etc. are the examples of the casual incomes, means which cannot be recovered or which cannot be received on a regular basis, or unanticipated incomes will be called as casual incomes. So they have given the example called as winning from lotteries, winning crossword puzzles, winning from races, horse races, winning from card games, winning from gambling and betting. And any income called as casual income, if it is exceeding the certain limits, then the TDS or the tax has to be deducted from the sources. So first one, if any winning from the lotteries and if the price exceed rupees 10,000 rupees, means above the 10,000 rupees, if he is receiving the income from the form called as lottery, the tax has to be deducted from the source and the remaining amount has to be paid to the assessee. And if it is from the crossword puzzles and if the price exceed rupees 10,000 rupees, again the TDS has to be done. Means if any income called as lottery or winning from the lottery, if it is more than 10,000 rupees, then the person who is going to paying that income has to be deduct the taxes, that is 30% of taxes has to be deducted from the source and the remaining amount has to be paid to the assessee. And important one, if you receiving income from the race including horse races, be careful that maximum limit will be 5,000. So if any income from the horse races, if it exceeds rupees 5,000, then the TDS has to be done. And if it is below this exceed limits, it is not taxable, it is exempted. I'm repeating, if it is less than 10,000 or if it is less than 5,000, it is free from tax, we need not to pay the taxes. If it is more than 10,000 or more than 5,000, then we are supposed to pay the taxes to the government. Last one, winning from card games, if it exceeds rupees 10,000. So the TDS rate for casual income is rupees, that is percentage is 30%. And if in the problem they have given the net value or the net winnings, then we need to do the gross up by using the formula called as net interest or net income into 100 divided by 100 minus 30, because the TDS rate for the casual income is 30%. So we need to take the 30 as a tax rate. This is about the casual income. So for lottery and for work crossword puzzles, rupees 10,000 is the limit. And if we winning the amount or income from the horse races, the maximum limit is 5,000. Below that is exempted, above that is supposed to pay the taxes. And if in the problem they have given the net value, that is after deducting the taxes, if they given the value in the problem, then we need to do the gross up by using the formula called as net into 100 divided by 100 minus 30. Next, income from family pension. So if any person called as any dependent on the deceased person as receiving the amount called as or income called as income from family pension, that income can be taxable under the head called as income from other sources, and you can claim the deductions from that income, that is rupees 15,000 or 1/3 of actual compensation or actual amount received, whichever is less is exempted. Means if he receiving rupees 30,000 from the family pension or an income from family pension, from that 30,000 he can claim the deduction, that is either maximum of rupees 15,000 or 1/3 of the 30,000. So whichever is less, will be taken and it will be deducted from the income. That is, taxable amount will be actual pension received, that is 30,000, minus exempted, either 15,000 or one third of the 30,000, whichever is less, that amount will be taken as exempted and the balance amount will be taxable under the head called as income from other sources.